You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 164.
Coronavirus, new UFO hotness, Starlink, man harassed by mysterious drones, Skinwalker Ranch, and Bigfoot.
Yeah. All right, so here we are again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this podcast is about what?
CreepGeeks Podcast is an offbeat news podcast that takes a lighthearted approach to the paranormal, cryptid, strange, the silly, and trending tech topics circulating the web, broadcasting paranormal news and fun stories from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
Yes, that's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, in this particular podcast, we like to talk about paranormal and weird news. That's kind of what we do, right?
Yeah.
So this is episode number 164, and if you have been tuning into the podcast, we very much appreciate having you listen and participate with us. We do like that very much. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Yeah. She loves it when I do that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, in this particular podcast, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're going to kind of get right into it. But before we do, there's a couple different ways for you to be able to support the podcast. And we do this because we have to.
Yep.
This is a part of the podcast where we tell you how you can support the podcast. It's pretty easy. There's a couple different ways you can do it. The first one is, if you have something that you'd like to share with us, you can call the show and leave a message.
You can call our voicemail inbox. That's going to be 575-208-4025. You can leave a message about your strange experience, or if you have a paranormal lead or you want to just talk about something weird, give us a call there, leave your message. You can also email us, and you can email us by reaching out to contact@creepgeeks.com, or you can visit creepgeeks.com and click that Contact Us link on the left-hand side of the page.
Yes, and you can leave a link there if you want, and we'll check it out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we've had this in the past where somebody's actually sent us a link, and it was a pretty interesting link, and we used that link along with some of their information to make a blog post about it, and it was, if I remember correctly, 7 different ways to determine if your house was haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty good. So, I mean, if you want to share something with us, or you have a suggestion, or you have a story like she's saying, then go ahead and just leave us a message, if you will. If you don't want to do that, but you still want to partake in the weirdness and paranormal weird news and some of the subjects and topics that we talk about, you can do that on our Facebook page, because we have one. It's called
CreepGeeks Podcast.
Yes. Pretty hard to find. And you can kind of like join in all the fun there, because people share stuff all the time, lots of different topics talked about, and funny stuff primarily. And it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually have a couple good moderators that are there to.
In our Facebook group, which is CreepGeeks Facebook group.
Is pretty nice, and the moderators are there too. Because I was going to talk about the moderators for a second and say they do a good job. That's all. They need to hear that every once in a while, because it makes them feel good and we don't have to pay them. See? Ain't like that. No, it's actually pretty fun. So yeah, don't be afraid to jump in there and help support the show by interaction. And if you'd like to support the show in a different way, you can do that pretty easily. If you do Amazon for your shopping needs like we do, we have an affiliate link that you can use. And if you click on that link and you buy something, we get a small percentage. Doesn't change your price at all, and it helps us keep gas and coffee flowing in the Albino Rhino, our DIY adventure campermobile of death and destruction and investigation. It's a 2018 Ram ProMaster, Omi.
Yes.
2,500.
And that affiliate link is amazon.com/shop/CreepGeeks. cheap geek.
Yeah, because we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so I was looking at all the memes that have been going around the internet about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Comparing the coronavirus to, Corona is if you like Corona beer and you know who you are, you might find this slightly offensive. Corona beer is kind of weak. I don't know. It's its own thing. It's I'm trying to be nice about it. There's better beers to drink, but Corona has its place. So people were making memes about Corona beer and coronavirus, comparing the two and doing all that sort of thing. But what I found out is that this whole coronavirus is actually kind of scary.
Yes, it's terrifying, actually.
Yeah, so I was going to make a joke about it, but then I started reading up on it. I'm like, whoa, man, this is kind of serious business, and we should probably talk about it because it does tie into a little bit of I don't want to say the C word, but some sort of, there is a mysterious coincidence, according to Mysterious Universe, that we'll talk about in just a second, that makes this virus even more scary than what it's been reported in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know what coronavirus is, there's an interesting random factoid that we'd like to do with our podcast where we talk about different things. And the interesting random factoid is the coronavirus.
Everybody is making the Corona beer memes about it, but the coronavirus gets its name from the crown-like spikes on its surface, according to the CDC. Corona is Latin for crown.
Yes.
Yes. Including the newly identified form of the virus, there are a total of 7 coronaviruses that can infect humans, according to the CDC. Other well-known coronaviruses include SARS and MERS.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So, now that we know how it got its mystical, magical name, right?
Yeah.
I went to USA Today because it was honestly one of the first links that popped up, right?
Yeah.
And it said 5 U.S. coronavirus cases now confirmed infection can spread before symptoms show.
Oh, gosh.
Which is kind of scary because the more reading I did, the more I realized, okay, with SARS, which is severe, I can't remember, hold on. It's, because there's two. You've got Middle Eastern, how do you say it, respiratory?
I don't know.
Okay, so we're obviously not the CDC, and we're obviously not the expert.
Well, SARS stands for the South African something.
Yeah, SARS. Yeah, South African respiratory something.
Yeah.
Sickness. I don't know. We're going to call it that until we figure out what it is, because it kind of went out of my head. But
oh no, severe acute respiratory syndrome.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds better than what we were saying.
Yeah, no.
But there was a South African
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't for Dustin Hoffman flying around and figuring out where patient 0 was, we'd all be dead right now for that one.
Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome.
Right. And then you have SARS, which was severe acute respiratory syndrome. I think is what that stood for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, SARS or MERS, doesn't matter. With those two particular viruses, which were pretty scary when they came out, you couldn't spread the virus during its incubation period. So you could have it for a couple 14 days or whatever, and then once you went past the incubation stage and became contagious, then you were contagious, right? With this coronavirus that comes out of Wuhan, China, you can basically be incubating the virus and spreading it at the same time before you actually get full-blown coronavirus.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, so let's move into the article here. They'll do a much better job of trying to explain the fear that I have with this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so far in the U.S. at the time of this article here, which is January 26th, 5 U.S. cases of coronavirus is now confirmed. Infection can spread before symptoms actually show, right? So far, the coronavirus has killed more than 50 people in China.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. total of cases is now 5. The virus has been reported in several cities. All deaths, right, have been in China so far. Most have been in or around Wuhan, which is the central city of 11 million people. That's the epicenter for the outbreak, right? And they think that a lot of it was spread through the markets with like food and rice and
which
contamination, right?
To talk about soon, yeah.
Yeah, and they even sort of said, well, it's weird because when they were talking about the marketplace where this supposedly happened, they were talking about how it sells exotic meats like koala bears and stuff like that. Like they had something to do with it. I don't know. It's kind of a strange thing. But here's what they say. There is no immediate threat to the general public. No special precautions are required, and people should not be excluded from activities based on their race, country of origin, or recent travel if they do not have symptoms of respiratory illness. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what's scary about that is it just says at the very top of this stupid thing, 5 U.S. coronavirus cases now confirmed infection can spread before symptoms show.
And then the part...
So I'm like, what? And so I'm reading this, and I'm like, okay, this seems by mysterious coincidence, because I don't want to say conspiracy, right? Yeah. Anyway, when I start seeing things like this, I start getting a little bit more like worried about it, right?
And that's the thing that bothers me, because it's like, the next paragraph is basically practice good public health hygiene as this is the height of flu season and continue to engage in your regular activities. But then basically a paragraph down, they're talking about Arizona and Maricopa County.
Yeah, in California.
Officials in Maricopa County in Arizona said the confirmed case is in a person who recently returned from travel to Wuhan, China.
Shocking.
Which, if you guys know, I am a rock nerd. Right now in Arizona is one of the largest gem and mineral shows. Yeah,
it's also Quartzsite has like 1 million snowbirds there that are all relatively
So we're talking like
old.
The Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. You have Mesa, Arizona right there.
Yeah, you got Quartzsite, which has, over the wintertime, grows to like 2 million people or something like that because of all the RVers
so
and snowbirds. So you
have this influx of, because it's gem and minerals, you have this influx of people, Chinese traders, gemstone experts, gemologists, flooding Arizona right now. And I have all these rock hound friends going, this gem show's on my bucket list, but now I'm kind of not sure if I should go.
Yeah. So all these CDC cases, right, that are out now, I'm reading them and I'm like, okay, well, we've got Chicago, Washington State, right, Arizona, California. And I'm like, cool, man, it's on the other side of the country. And then bam, Virginia.
And then bam, I just told you.
North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah. So this thing is East Coast, West Coast. It's starting to spread. I'm like, okay, what's going on here, right? And the virus was first diagnosed in China last month. Has infected so far at least 1,975 people. It's killed 56 so far. And the ability of the virus to spread is getting stronger. And that basically before the infectious symptoms show, right, it just keeps spreading. So it spreads. You don't even know you have it. Somebody else can get it. And then by the time you actually have it, they can treat you, but it's too late. And so what makes this outbreak different from severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS, which before we made up South African and whatever because we don't know what we're talking about because we're not.
Google is a liar.
Well, yeah, that, and we're not a virus expert by any means, right?
Virologist.
Whatever. It says that SARS is a virus that was not contagious during incubation. SARS killed more than 600 people across mainland China and Hong Kong, with more than 100 other people around the world in 2002, 2003. And for some reason, I was thinking SARS was like 2 years ago. No, evidently not. It just means I'm getting older and time is whizzing by.
Yeah.
But there's this assistant professor and public health specialist who's at Butler University's College of Pharmacy and Health Services. I have no idea how reputable that place is. And I can't pronounce her name, so I'm not going to. It says that the immediate reporting of symptoms or contact is now more crucial than ever. Asymptomatic transmission of the novel coronavirus, right, definitely makes it more problematic and more difficult to contain. This automatically heightens the level of concern about the existing cases in the United States and could there be other cases. So the World Health Organization, right, declined to categorize the coronavirus as a global health emergency and lauds basically China for its efforts to contain the virus, which is great, but we'll talk about this in a little bit in a minute here, right? Mm-hmm. Chinese authorities have locked down Wuhan and at least 2 cities in an unprecedented effort to contain the virus during the busy Lunar New Year travel period. And it basically, the U.S. has closed its consulate in Wuhan and is pulling out its diplomats.
That doesn't sound like
something you would normally do. Oh,
yeah.
I don't think they pulled them out for SARS.
Yeah.
They're pulling these people out of China. They're like, bye. They're not like saying, hey, let's just send you guys on vacation somewhere else. They're pulling them out.
And see, the assistant professor that you were talking about and, the heightened level of concern during the incubation period. The person in Raleigh that I was telling you about from that article earlier
right.
They weren't showing all the signs.
Right.
And I think they were just feeling general distress.
Yeah.
So literally the hospital away team pretty much was waiting for them as soon as the plane took off or landed and escorted them in isolation gear.
And see, this is what's, kind of scary about this. And we'll talk about the symptoms because as I was reading what the symptoms are, I'm getting the symptoms just reading them.
Stop it.
That's what's saying to me. It's like, oh man, it's like WebMD, right? Okay, so the death toll rises to 56 deaths in China, right? U.S. diplomats are preparing to leave Wuhan. A small number of cases have been also diagnosed in Hong Kong, Macau, Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Nepal, France, Canada, and Australia. That's a lot all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And it's making its way across, right? So coronaviruses are basically part of a large family of viruses that cause illnesses ranging from common cold, pneumonia. Some signs include
fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties.
Yeah, and as I was reading this, I was getting all these symptoms. I'm like, oh man, here it goes. Because see, a lot of these symptoms and stuff that you read kind of mimic having a sinus infection.
Yeah, and
which I get every year. So it's like when the weather changes or it rains and then dries. I get all this.
And
so
as you get older, and plus with the climate that we now live in, shortness of breath and breathing difficulties are common out here.
Yeah. And especially with the high humidity.
I've been out of breath all day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So in more severe cases, you can get acute respiratory syndrome, kidney failure, death. Coronaviruses are zoonotic, which means that they are transmitted between animals and people, which is super scary.
Pepper, put a mask on.
Right? That means, like when we watched that one zombie movie where they were trying to go somewhere and the guy looked up and the seagull or whatever it was dropped one drop of virus zombie blood and hit him right in the eye and he became a zombie. I think it was like 28 days later or 30 days later. If you know what zombie movie that was, leave us a link or let us know somewhere, maybe in the comments. Right? And if you listen to the podcast on YouTube, because we do have a YouTube channel, it's basically called CreepGeeks, where we put the audio podcast up for people who want to see it or hear it there. Leave us a link. And I'm pretty much calling out Prospero at this point because I think he knows, but
because he's the movie guy, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. And the thing about that zombie movie, real quick, was it was one of the first ones I remember where the zombies weren't just like, shuffling around, like, oh, I'm a zombie. You can just, in a brisk pace, you could speed walk away from them and not worry about it. These were the ones that were running like across the field, like 100 miles an hour, which is scary. But anyway, getting back to the scary death virus so far, it's called coronavirus. Common symptoms can be fever, a dry cough that develops after 2 to 7 days, mild breathing difficulties at the outset, gastrointestinal issues, diarrhea, general body aches, high fever of 100.4 or higher, pneumonia, kidney failure is something that can be in there, and you can transmit it by coughs or sneezes from an infected person or touching contaminated objects, and I'm sure you can get it from animals too, since it says you can.
Yeah, in fact, what did you say to me the other day about opening up all my Wish orders?
Oh, yeah. It's like you better wear gloves, put a mask on.
Yeah. So now I don't want to open anything I got from...
So if you order anything and it comes in from China, you might want to strap up, put some gloves on, maybe slather some things and what's that stuff called?
Lysol,
or the other stuff for your hands, hand sanitizer. Just slather the whole thing. So it's kind of scary so far, this thing that's going around. And it's just going to get worse. So I was like, what?
But see, okay, we're going to go to the Mysterious Universe article, but just looking at this mainstream article, the way it is worded and the way it just contradicts itself just starts to put up that modern
Well, that's what they do.
interpretation of the word conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because it's a deception. I mean, you're stating these don't panics, but then there's
you're giving us reason to panic.
Yeah, and you're giving ample reason from a
And
scientific
slipping in
perspective.
details like, oh, yeah, the diplomats are leaving.
Yeah. So that, to me, is just deceptive.
Yeah, and the Chicago woman with coronavirus is in good condition.
Oh, great.
Well, when you read the symptoms and stuff, you're like, well, am I going to die from this or what? And now, it's like, okay, what's going on here, man? It's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's more. The most popular article on USA Today is coronavirus passengers checked after incidents in 3 major airports. And that's something, too. The airports are quick and have been quick to get on board with this thing, like super fast,
The
And
Raleigh
we're not talking
airport-
TSA either. We're talking like, and they're ready, man. They've got like, epidemic/pandemic teams just ready.
Yeah.
And they're scanning passengers that are coming in from China. And I'm sure they're scanning them from other places too.
They were there before that plane actually landed.
Right.
So
we shouldn't be worried, but they're starting to do some things. And then, as you alluded to and what I've alluded to, I came across this article on Mysterious Universe because I like Mysterious Universe. It's a great website, man. Great podcast. Good people, right? Good writers. And here's the article that I came across. Officials once warned that a virus lab in Wuhan, right, ground zero for the coronavirus, could accidentally release it. And this article, was a couple days ago, but and it kind of goes like this: the outbreak of the mysterious virus that originated in China and has been reported in at least 5 other countries, which that number has grown, including the U.S., is definitely a tragedy and could be on its way to becoming an epidemic. While medical experts and the media track its spread and debate whether or not eating snacks or bat soup from a certain market in Wuhan is the origin point, the coronavirus causing the deadly pneumonia-like illness, but very few people have noticed that the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory studying the virus is the same lab that experts warned in 2017 could accidentally release a similar deadly virus to the public arena, like the SARS virus, that basically escaped from a high-level containment facility multiple times. So, Paul Seaborn, who writes this article, I'm pretty sure it's Paul Seaborn, basically hypothesizes or surmises, whatever, puts it out there to us like this. Is it a coincidence that ground zero for the coronavirus is the same lab designated as the only place in the world that can find a cure? And now Wuhan is now cut off from the rest of the world. So it's like, huh.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? So where did this thing actually come from? It comes from Wuhan. They shut the city down. They're doing all this stuff. And the only lab in the world who can find a cure is there. And they happen to have it. So they had the virus there. Evidently the virus has got out, right?
Yeah.
And it says, but worries surround the Chinese lab too. The SARS virus has escaped from high-level containment facilities in Beijing multiple times. And this comes from Richard Ebright, who's a molecular biologist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has along a bunch of other stuff after his name. He says that an open culture is important for keeping these biological labs safe. And he questions how easy this would be in China, where society emphasizes hierarchy. So I'm going, man, that seems like a little bit more of a coincidence. But it's okay. So in 2017, an article in Journal Natural both heralded the opening of the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory and warned of the tremendous risk involved in placing it in such a highly populated area on the Chinese mainland. So the facility is a biosafety level 4.
Yeah.
Right? So a little knowledge for you. Or BSL-4, which is the highest level of biocontainment designed for working with agents that could be easily aerosol transmitted and cause severe to fatal disease in humans, for which there is no available vaccines or treatments. So they're authorized to work with this stuff, but they're also in like a really heavily populated area. Now, the lab itself filters its air and treats its water and waste before it leaves, and employees must change clothes and shower before and after work. And BSL-4 labs have been used to store and research the Marburg virus, the Ebola virus, Lassa virus, Hendra virus, Nipah virus, variola virus, smallpox, and now it's home for the coronavirus.
Huh.
Or was it the cause? Dun, dun, dun. So initial reports are limited. Government officials announced Thursday that a task force of Chinese researchers has identified the microbe causing the outbreak. The culprit, they say, is a virus never seen before in humans, a newly discovered member of the coronavirus family, the branches of which cause the common cold, SARS, and MERS. And basically reports from state media last week indicated that the Chinese-led research team has already basically copies of this virus growing in the cell lines. So under pressure from the global public health community to release more details, the consortium published a draft genome of the novel coronavirus over the weekend, encouraging researchers around the world to analyze and share the data. That's pretty troublesome.
Yeah.
The lab is like, and this is a government lab, it's China.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, here it is. Here's what we got. Here's the novel. Basically, here's the makeup of the virus.
But when you draft something like that, is it truly the one that's out there that they can compare?
I think if they're even putting it out there,
yeah,
they're like, they're freaking out here. I think that this is kind of becoming a bad thing.
My thing is, I'm worried this is their best guess, I don't
know, man.
I
think it maybe not, because it takes a lot to become certified, this BSL-4 or whatever, but
I'm sure.
You think it's a ruse? I don't know. I don't think so.
These people are very intelligent, and it's amazing some of the medical advancements that have come out of places like China and France. They lead as well as the U.S. when it comes to medical research. But with this, I'm worried that this might be their best guess, because even they may not fully understand what's going on.
I think that this is out of control, and they're like, we need help, and I think they put it out there. Now, if some of these scientists, right, this research team just start showing up dead, then they weren't supposed to release it at all, and the Chinese government was like, oh, yeah, wait, what are you doing?
But see, China has a tendency to make people...
we don't know. I mean, you understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say the same thing you're trying to say, but you kind of want to go against me with what I'm saying. It goes like this. You think it may be a ruse. I'm thinking it's just out of control.
Oh, no. Not that it's a ruse, that they're...
Like, they don't know what they're doing. They're like, here's all we got. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, look,
yeah.
Since you've recently had a bad experience buying some Chinese products, right, from like Ally Express, I don't necessarily think that's in the same sort of consideration, right?
But the thing that scares me is, one of the things that bothers me.
Well, see, hold on, because there's more to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Wired Magazine basically reported that a coronavirus was identified by the lab just 2 weeks after the first victims appeared. And copies were quickly grown, and the genome was released to other researchers. So how could that have been accomplished so quickly? Did they already know about it? We may not know or find out these answers to these questions anytime soon. So there's more to this.
And then,
closing off Wuhan.
This is a part I wanted to chime in on.
All right, go ahead.
In closing off Wuhan, a city of more than 11 million people.
That's a lot. China
deployed on Thursday morning a centuries-old public health tactic to prevent the spread of an infectious disease. This time, a mysterious respiratory infection caused by a coronavirus. Experts say that the stunning scale of the shutdown, isolating a major urban transit hub larger than New York City, was without precedent. And my thing is, this harkens back to imperialist China type tactics. We're going to close off our borders, our affected areas that have like a certain concentration of an issue. We're not going to we'll cooperate with the rest of the world.
No, man, this is like the Black Plague, where the entire cities were quarantined. They're like, don't go there, you'll get the plague. And if people would try to leave the cities, other cities would kill them.
Yes.
They've locked down an entire city as big as New York City, saying no in, no out.
But what if this is just a giant tester city?
I don't think that they would do that. I think that they could do their own tester city by just going and getting people from jails and testing them. I don't think they need to lock down an entire city.
Well, yeah, they do that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we don't know if they do that.
Yeah.
But because, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
So why? I mean, here's what I think. I think stuff got out of hand, man. I mean, because they released everything quickly. And I think that, it evidently didn't take them long to come up with the whole novel or basically the makeup of this entire gene, right?
Yeah.
And so they've been obviously goofing around with it for a while. And I think now it's got out of control. It got out, and they know it's going to spread like crazy. So they're like, here's all we got.
And the New York Times and other media sites were reporting that China has effectively shut down travel in and out of Wuhan and 4 other nearby cities.
Yeah, 4 other cities.
Which basically locks in millions in an already contaminated area.
Yep.
News reports from inside Wuhan are also restricted, so the horrifying images and video, like some of our friends have seen, of people falling ill in the streets can't even be verified.
Yeah.
So we don't even know because there's this one video somebody was telling me about where it's like you see somebody fall over and die in the streets.
Yeah, this is how the zombie apocalypse outbreak is going to start, right?
We can't even confirm whether or not that's real.
Yeah, and then you got part of the article where it talks about James G. Hodge, director of the Center of Public Health Law and Policy at Arizona State University, said the shutdown would almost certainly lead to human rights violations and would be patently unconstitutional in the United States. It could very easily backfire, he said, adding that the restrictions could prevent healthy people from fleeing the city, perhaps exposing them to greater risk of infection. In general, this is a risky business. This is kind of one of those things where human rights violations are probably one of the last things they're worried about. If they're worried about an epidemic of a proportion that can take out the world, I'm sorry your rights are being trampled, but we're going to basically cordon off the entire area. Because what would you do? If there was a virus outbreak that could basically kill the entire planet, the last thing you're worried about is human rights violations. You're going to try to contain it as best you can. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
It does.
Because let's go ahead and bust out with some old school Star Trek logic here, right? And I said track to make Star Trek people angry. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
True.
Right. In our entire society these days, it's sort of flipped, where you have the entitlement and
everyone deserves a chance.
Yeah. If they've got the plague brewing over there and they've got to lock down an entire city and keep it contained,
and see,
they're going to do what they have to do, and we're probably not going to like it. And they're not really known for human rights championship in general.
But it's always the U.S. that's in the news for its arguments regarding closed and open borders, whereas other countries, closed and open borders, whether it's political or health or violence, like in South America, it's not up for such a public discussion.
Well, yeah, because that's the way they do. Because people will say, they don't care. They don't care that other countries will kill you for crossing a border illegally or without authorization. They don't care if another country closes a border completely due to whether it be resources or contagions or whatever. They don't care. They're not looked at that way. It's only people in the U.S. that really get worked up over it. I mean, I have traveled all over the world. I have been to other places. And, it was never occurred to me to try to cross the border legally because a lot of the cops have machine guns.
Yeah.
In other countries, they can stop and ask you for your papers. And if you're like, I don't need to show you my papers, I got rights, you get taken out. I watched some of my friends get smacked in the face with a gun because he smarted off to the cop.
But see, most Americans can only relate experiences like traveling to Mexico or Canada. And
no, you can't say that. That's just a blanket statement for most Americans. That's not necessarily true.
Then
the ones that make the most complaints are the ones that haven't gone anywhere.
So
that's a small number of loud people.
I would say
I think
the ones that feel they have an argument would be like, well, I went to Canada. It wasn't that hard.
When I went back to school after I got out of the Navy, and I sat I took the day classes, and I sat in a class full of youngsters who'd never gone anywhere, never done anything, but they surely knew everything there was about the world. Yeah. It made me angry to the point where I was surrounded by such ignorance and stupidity based off of no real experience that I had to switch to nights. And when I got to nights, they were older people, you know, experienced in the ways of the world and life in general. And it was so much better.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have these stupid arguments, you know, because it wasn't worth the time. We were all there for one thing, to try to get a passing score in the class. That was it. We did not give a crap about anything else. It was because, you know, number one, you paid for the class, right? Mm-hmm. You worked all day long and you got there at night. You didn't have time to mess around. You didn't really care so much about all this stuff. But it seemed like during the daytime, we'd have all these discussions about the ways of the world. And then, you know, you're sitting there, and I'm not going to basically take a professor who, yeah, some of these people, it's like, wow, I could be a professor too, I guess, if I don't have any real experience. And, you know, that's the part that's aggravating for me, is that a lot of these professors and people in educational positions get to influence your children and upcoming generations with their garbage opinions and views on things. And a lot of it's just not.
Or the general public based on their limited experience. Like I was saying, with like crossing the border to Canada, which is a different relationship entirely between the
now,
US
everybody
and
thinks
Canada.
Canadians are nice, but those Canadians, they will shoot you, homie.
Yes, but
those Mounties, boy.
The experience from the everyday U.S. citizen or even a U.S. politician, and saying that's the experience for every country in the world and every U.S. citizen and non-citizen alike is pretty dumb. And then when you have things such as war or epidemics or plagues or the coronavirus, that changes the situation.
Yes.
So
if you're Canadian, I don't really think that you shoot people. Don't come shoot me.
No. In fact, it's mostly the only time that one show that was about like crossing the border to Canada, it was mostly the only time.
It was ignorant Americans.
Yeah, it was ignorant Americans. And the only time the kind of intimidation level rose in that show, it wasn't drugs. It wasn't really anything serious. But if it was like game or animal related, that's when stuff hit the fan.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's important because you got like mad cow disease. There's all sorts of other disease that spread. But I don't know, man. This whole thing with this idea that it's possible that, you know, the coronavirus was engineered in a Chinese lab and it got out and it's out of control and they're locking things up. And basically they've got the epicenter locked down and 4 surrounding cities, and government officials are leaving and travel is being restricted, you know, to and from. And we've got containment sort of set up at airports for any of these people coming in from these regions to be screened. It seems like,
I wonder what
it seems like this has happened really quick. It doesn't seem like, you know, it seemed like it took a while for SARS to get going, right?
But
before you heard about it, this is fast, man. It's like, what the heck's going on?
But is the fast response our reaction to the damage caused by SARS and MERS, or is it something else?
I think that the news is out, that this is serious business, and they're not messing around. In other words, I don't think we're being told exactly how bad this is. I mean, they're trying to play it off by like, oh, well, you know, were you eating snakes? Did you have any bat soup? Like from eating an exotic animal is where you got this Wuhan virus from. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more than likely, you know, there's a higher likelihood that this has been engineered in a lab and it's got out.
And that's the other thing about these articles. It's like escaped virus. I'm like, is it the virus? Did the virus put its hat on, grab its backpack, and walk out the building, or did a person?
I don't care. I want it to stay in the lab. Well, I mean, if they have it locked up and it's supposed to be secure and it gets out, that's an escape to me. We've all seen that movie with Dustin Hoffman where he's searching for that monkey, you know, because they were trying to contain the outbreak. Anybody know the name of that movie?
Outbreak.
Yeah, somebody right now is like, it's Outbreak, stupid. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of crazy. This whole corona thing, it seems to be nothing to joke about. I'm going to keep on paying attention to it. So there you go. If you have any of those symptoms that are like just being sick, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't even want to go grocery shopping now.
Yeah. It's like, you know, we should go do the pickup thing. And as the person where we're going to go, probably Walmart's, I think the only place around here that does it. As they go up and try to put stuff in the car, we just start Lysol bombing everything. just spraying it all down. Like, hey, did you get the Lysol on my order? Yeah, let me see that. Just soak it all down right there.
I think it was like when the bird flu was coming out. I had a friend who really overreacted. And no, it was swine flu. So they went and bought like one of those big giant crates full of germ hand sanitizer, right?
I'll show them.
From Amazon. And then as they unpack it, made in China, packed and shipped from China.
Well, everything's made in China these days. I don't know. A long time ago, there was a theory that I read in Rolling Stone magazine, of all places, that AIDS and HIV were actually a derivative of the swine flu. That AIDS and HIV, basically AIDS and HIV, the entire sort of package there, is originally part of an engineered sickness, because you can have AIDS or HIV turns into AIDS. I'm not exactly sure anymore, but yeah, that it was actually caused by a swine flu, right? Virus that had been sort of mutated to something else. Yeah.
Okay.
And in the same article, they talked about where a person had HIV. I don't know if they had AIDS or had moved into AIDS yet, because honestly, I'm not very good with that kind of thing. And they went to a part of the country and somewhere overseas in Europe where their blood was pumped out of their body and superheated to kill the virus. And then they added like platelets or some other crap back into it. And then their blood was put back in their body again. And they showed no signs of HIV or had any AIDS symptoms at all. And that was their cure.
I would need to see that article.
It was a long time ago, Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was like, well, I wonder if that's true. Because, there's also like it's probably not an urban legend that Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones goes and gets blood transfusions every
Tina
so
Turner
often.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. If you think you have coronavirus, stay away from me.
HIV started from a chimp mutated virus. Okay.
No, man, that's the Outbreak movie. Just saying. They don't really know exactly how that got started.
They believe that the chimpanzee version of the immunodeficiency virus was most likely transmitted to humans and mutated into HIV.
Are you reading it off of Wikipedia?
No. The AIDS Institute.
Yeah. Well, there's some...
Oh, come on.
No, okay. I don't want to turn our freaking paranormal and weird news podcast into talking about what people were really saying, how AIDS actually started.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was getting at. So in your face. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there you go. Let's talk about mysterious lights dotting the sky.
Okay.
Because this talks about New Mexico, which is where we came from before we got here, to our secret undisclosed location in western North Carolina, hopefully free from a coronavirus.
Hopefully.
So I'm going to set up a hand sanitizer cannon so anybody that walks in will be like, I'm going to need you to slather yourself in this. Get to slathering. All right, so this whole mysterious lights dotting the night sky captured New Mexicans' attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, UFOs and stuff, let me go ahead and check this out. It is New Mexico, and as much as we, enjoyed living in New Mexico, sometimes New Mexicans are not known for being the most intelligent, kind of like Florida, right? So I watched this, and an Albuquerque man says he spotted a string of lights moving slowly across the night sky, and it's been a mystery over the metro. And he wasn't the only one to see him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this guy lived on 4th Street near Alameda, and he basically, I'm not going to say his name, Frank Gonzalez, but he saw something unusual in the night sky. Across the whole sky, it went from one end to the other. I guess I lost sight of him, and he's basically gesticulating in the direction where the lights went away. He said it all happened when he came outside around 7 o'clock p.m. to feed his dog Gunzy. He said there were lights going across the sky, and at first I'd seen them coming over a bright light over there, and I started counting them, and I counted like 30. So his first thought, aliens. Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was UFOs. I really did. I've never seen anything like it. I thought it was UFOs. So Gonzalez isn't the only one who spotted those lights, right?
Yeah.
And on Reddit, somebody posted where they saw strange lights traveling across Albuquerque, and there were about 30 lights. Right?
Okay.
So Gonzalez, he called his family. And it's like, he told him what he's seen. Because he wanted to see if anybody else had seen him, because he'd seen something that he'd never seen before, and it scared him. So his daughter said, hey, it's more than likely SpaceX satellites that were launched from Florida. And those satellites, they're there to provide internet to every inch of the earth, right? They've been launching these things.
Yeah.
So in May, SpaceX launched more than 60 satellites, and an astronomer captured them in orbit with his camera. And they showed Gonzalez the images, and he said, yes, that looks exactly like what I saw. Almost like Christmas lights. So someone else explained to him it's kind of like car lights, but he says, but to me, it's still unidentified flying objects because we don't know what they were. So there have also been reports of those lights in Nebraska, Wyoming, and someone called in a Taos and said, hey, they'd seen those lights as well. So they reached out to SpaceX to see if they could confirm whether the lights seen in Albuquerque were the satellites, but they haven't heard back. Okay, so there's like a 99% chance that what this guy actually seen, because there's video of it, and it looks like satellites cruising across the sky as they've been launched.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I'm watching the video now.
There's like a 99% chance these things are the satellites because they're in low orbit, and when they get sort of positioned, they don't become bright anymore. You don't see them. But he's like, I don't care what it is, right? To me, it's still unidentified flying objects because we don't know what they were. Yes, you do. You do know what they were. Everybody knows what they are.
And that's the one thing, though. It's Albuquerque. It's New Mexico. You are literally 4,000 feet higher above sea level than most people. You're going to be able to see more aerial phenomenon that has an explainable, logical origin.
That's okay, though. We don't know what they were. Even though we have reputed, we have news sources, we have like video, we have all of this stuff. What's the coincidence of seeing like 30 UFOs flying in formation or launching 30 satellites in orbit in formation? Are they related? Nope. No. So I just thought that was kind of funny. That, the guy, so he'd never seen them before, and it makes sense. If I'd seen something like that, I think it's crazy too. But when they showed him video and showed him the astronomers' pictures, right, of what happened when SpaceX launched these satellites because they have to launch a bunch of these things. Like for the first launch, he's like, yes, that's exactly what I seen. And they're like, well, these are satellites. And he's like, nope. To me, it's unidentified flying objects because we don't know what they were. And it's like, yes, you do. We just told you what it was.
Somebody just identified them.
Yeah, and they're like, nope, not to me, man. I don't care what you say. And it reminded me of the dude in North Carolina where he had seen something when he was out fishing on a lake and he thought it was a UFO. And Goodyear, right, the blimp, the tire company that has the blimp, the Goodyear blimp people were like, yeah, that was us. We were flying over Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a blimp. That was us. And he was like, I don't think so. So he was like, well, hold on. We were flying the blimp around. He's like, nope. I'll believe it when I see it with my own eyes. And it's like, dude, you did see it with your own eyes. The people flying the thing said, yes, it was us. And he's like, I don't think so. It's like, okay.
I know what I saw.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I know what I saw. So what do you got to get smacked in the face with the blimp to see it's a blimp? It's like when the people flying the thing says, no, yeah, that was us, man. We were whizzing around. So I just thought it was kind of funny. It's like, what? Yeah. And so that got me thinking, I wonder how many UFO reports are going to be now out, right, and about and in the public eye because of these satellites that are going to be launched all the time.
Well,
because they got to get like 30,000 of these things from multiple companies up to get the entire Earth to be. And see, are they really satellites that they're putting up in there? Because they want to basically cover the entire Earth and internet. So what if they're trying to put all these satellites up and get the entire Earth covered, right, with this grid pattern, so if they need to, they can join together and create like a mesh net to protect us against asteroids.
Well, that kind of speaks to one of the articles I put in this.
Meteorites? Asteroids?
That kind of speaks to one of the articles I put into this podcast episode, which is that UFO sightings in North America have jumped to nearly 6,000 in 2019.
Yes.
I mean...
You're welcome for the segue.
Yes. I mean, with...
Which is spelled Segu.
Are you...
Hey.
With the amount of satellites launched in 2019, did that affect this increase in UFO sightings?
It probably did. I mean, you already got the one guy who in New Mexico seen them, and then you got the astronomer who took a bunch of pictures.
I mean, the National UFO Reporting Center, which tracks calls and messages from people around the U.S. and Canada about strange sightings in the sky, reported that it received 5,971 sightings in 2019.
That's a lot.
Which is a jump from a mere 3,395 in 2018.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so Pete Davenport, who runs the independent organization that's based in Davenport, Washington, said he couldn't explain why more people called about seeing flashing white lights, fireballs, disc-shaped objects, or other oddities in 2019. One of the mysteries of ufology is there is a fluctuation in the number of reports over the years. Some years it's been low, but others it's gotten higher recently. California led the country last year with the most UFO observations to the site, 485 in total. It's an increase of 182 sightings from 2018. Florida came in second, 385, which is 156 more reports than 2018.
Yeah.
So right there, Florida, nice clear skies. I'm sorry, California, nice clear skies.
Well,
yeah, Florida, you have where the satellites are being launched from.
I don't think that's it. I think it's a little bit different. I think since UFOs were in the news, because like with the Navy and the Tic Tac video and the Reach for the Stars or Touch the Stars Academy and all that stuff, I think since it's been out in the news and it's been out in the forefront, and with some of the shows and Ancient Aliens and stuff, it's finally sort of, I mean, they're playing like Ancient Aliens all day long, like every day on these channels and stuff, because for those of you who aren't aware, we had no TV for a good year, no television. You turn it on, you got straight up static. Well, here recently, we've acquired satellite television. And honestly, we used to just stream television, so we would pick and choose what we wanted to watch. We don't have that option in an undisclosed location in Western North Carolina, so having satellite now and seeing all these alien shows and Bigfoot shows and ghost shows, they're just played continuously back to back to back. And the fact that UFO stuff was in the mainstream news, I think it's just people are looking for it now. And since they see something, it's easier to say something now because since it's so popular and it seems to be the cool thing, that's where I think they see a lot of this stuff from. But that's why you get more reports.
Even Rick Feinberg, spokesman for the American Astronomical Society, he noted SpaceX launched 180 new satellites into space last year, and those devices have lit up the night sky. So is it the fact that we've launched satellites, or is it the fact culture and society has gotten more comfortable? I mean, we had...
Yes, it's both.
It's both, but you have to have something out there for people to report. So what were they reporting? An actual UFO or a satellite?
We'll never know. Because, if it was obvious as to what's a UFO, what meets the criteria as for a satellite, and you don't really know, because at the end of the day, you see something in the sky you can't identify, you call it an unidentified flying object. Right? We'll never know if it was like these satellites per se versus something else. Unless I think the obvious thing would be if they're released and they're all in a line and it makes sense, like if they're obviously like the satellites that were released and you see them, you could probably say, well, there you go. But just to see the other weird stuff, I don't know. Like I was kind of reading an article about, the Air Force supposedly is stopping the SR-71 Blackbird program. Our high-flying, best, super coolest-looking jet ever.
Yeah.
Reconnaissance and all that stuff. Because it doesn't have a gun, and basically they were saying it, since it doesn't really serve any purpose but to go fast, and it, you can't use it to weaponize it, then what's the point of having it? And it makes me wonder if, when you see stuff like that, where this thing has been in play for a very long time, and all of a sudden they're like, it doesn't serve any purpose anymore. If really the reason why it doesn't serve any purpose anymore is because it's been replaced by something newer, better, faster, stronger, and they just don't want to spend the money to keep it up.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then I can see some of these newer aircraft and, experimental things and top secret government crafts leading to maybe some misidentification.
Yeah.
It's possible. I don't know. But either way, there's been a lot more UFO reports. And allegedly, there's been more Bigfoot reports. Kind of the same thing. So why more UFO and Bigfoot reports?
That goes into that whole theory that they're related somehow.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Speaking of related. Okay, so we have a little section here about Skinwalker Ranch, which we'll cover real quick.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not played out necessarily, but it is something that's just maybe not, the hotbed that it used to be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how did it get to become known as the hotbed of paranormal activity? Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did it sort of become known for that versus, anywhere other place? Like where the other ranch where the guy was killing aliens with a samurai sword.
Oh, yeah. Stardust, right?
Yeah. I think it's Stardust. So pretty much Skinwalker Ranch is one of those places where some people call it cursed, right?
It's Stardust.
I think it's a supernatural place.
Portal or thin area.
Portal, yeah. There's people that had chilling experiences there. And it kind of goes into a whole bunch of details that we're not necessarily going to talk about. It was actually bought one time.
Yeah.
By the National Institute of Discovery Science with, Bob Bigelow bought it. Yeah. They set up like around the clock surveillance, hoping to get to the bottom of all these paranormal claims, right? That surveillance yielded a book called The Hunt for the Skinwalker, which you can watch on Amazon, where it talks about, the hunt for the Skinwalker. Science confronts the unexplained at a remote ranch in Utah. And here's where it gets kind of weird. So the ranch was basically bought by Bigelow. Some people that were living there before were reporting all these crazy experiences that they had. The Sherman family.
Yeah.
They're getting spooked by what was happening on their new cattle ranch that they bought. So 18 months after they moved in, right, the family of four, basically they bought it, and it's known as Skinwalker Ranch, right? He sold the 512-acre parcel away, and him and his wife, Gwen, shared their chilling experiences with a local reporter in June of 1996.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that local reporter was, what's his name or not. Help me out here. I can't remember his name. Yeah, George Knapp. Anyway,
yeah.
They talk about mysterious crop circles, UFOs, systematic and repeated mutilation of their cattle.
Zach Van Eyck, who also has written some other interesting things.
Okay, yeah, that's who it was. And they talk about all that stuff, all this stuff sort of happening within 3 months of the publication of their story, right? So they talked about all the stuff that was happening. They wound up selling it. They sold it to UFO enthusiast and super billionaire guy, Bob Bigelow. He bought it for about $200,000. They did the round-the-clock surveillance. He created the National Institute for Discovery Science and put them in place. I don't know if it was for this, but he already had it in place. So he got them in there, round-the-clock surveillance. They created the book. And several of the researchers claimed that they had paranormal activities, but they were unable to capture any meaningful physical evidence supporting the Shermans' incredible stories.
And then just stopping it at that sentence right there, it doesn't do this justice, because there's been further talks and even presentations and guest interviews about that whole trickster element to what the scientists were experiencing.
Yeah.
Because yes, these scientists and researchers and research aides, they were having their own very traumatic and very high strangeness situations happening to them. But once the cameras turned on, or once the equipment, this high-end scientific equipment was on, the phenomenon would stop, or it would move. It would move just out of range of the camera lens, or it would do just this. It would go to a shift to a different area of the ranch.
Yeah, it was always like one step ahead.
Yeah.
It seemed to know what was going on.
This article, in that sense, right there, just makes it like, oh, they couldn't catch anything.
Yeah, they couldn't corroborate what they seen. They couldn't, so it wasn't a big deal. So the ranch was resold to Adamantium Real Estate.
Yes. Who have since applied trademark the name Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, but I mean, adamantium, that's not even a real thing. That's like what freaking Wolverine's bones were coated with.
No, I believe it's a real mineral or element.
It wouldn't be a mineral, it'd be a metal.
Element. Oh, fictional metal alloy.
Yeah,
okay.
Wrong. It's comic book lore, man.
Okay.
So when I read that, I'm like, adamantium or what? Real estate? That's not even a real thing. So it kind of makes you wonder who's behind it, who the company is.
And
actually bought it.
nobody can really figure that out.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, so I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? But not a big deal. But if you keep going back into the article here, because this article we're talking about, basically how the Skinwalker Ranch became a hotbed of paranormal activity was on the History Channel. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, okay. And so since the scientists that were there, the researchers that were there with Bob Bigelow, and they set up the surveillance and it was there for 24 hours, all this kind of crazy stuff, 24-hour day, 7 days a week, they couldn't support their claims because they had no meaningful physical evidence. And so it kind of goes to, were the Shermans lying about what they saw, or under the spell of a collective delusion? Without evidence, the stories they told are difficult to believe, but they're hardly unique. And the Uinta, I don't know how to say that, Uinta Basin of the southwestern Utah has been such a hotbed of paranormal sightings over the years that some extraterrestrial enthusiasts deemed it UFO Alley. You can't throw a rock in southern Utah without hitting somebody who's been abducted. And that came from local filmmaker Trent Harris. And I think he told the Deseret News.
I think we've actually watched something by him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So according to the Hunt for Skinwalker, odd objects have been spotted overhead since the first European explorers arrived in 1776.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where a Franciscan missionary was talking about strange fireballs that, showed up over his campfire at El Rey. Europeans were talking about some of the, the experiences they had with the indigenous people that preoccupied that basin.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's been experiences that have been reported there since way back in 1700s and earlier. So today, the Skinwalker Ranch basically butts up to the Unita and the Waure Indian reservation of the Ute tribe. So it all sort of butts up together, right?
Yeah. And supposedly that's where the phenomenon and the terrestrial cryptids of Skinwalker, that's where they roam.
Right.
So,
like a big dog.
Yeah. Creature things, yeah.
Like a 6-foot wolf. They've been shot multiple times, all sorts of crazy stuff.
Skinwalker. So
possibly a Skinwalker.
If you keep going through this, because it goes from anywhere from the Skinwalker and Skinwalker Ranch to mysterious creatures, and then cursed water, cursed lights. The image under cursed water, cursed lights kind of shows part of that boundary line, the high ground right there. That's kind of close to the start of the reservation. So it goes into the Ute folklore. And then anecdotal evidence or anecdotal stories of some of the stuff that's
like where
into.
Terry Sherman shot that wolf that was supposedly 3 times larger than a normal wolf.
Yeah.
And a biochemist who was working at Bigelow's National Institute for Discovery Science, he claimed to see a large humanoid spying on him from a tree.
Yeah.
Large humanoid creature, if I remember correctly. Supposed to be hairy, kind of like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Right? And he said that he seen the creature was like 50 yards away. Right? Watching the team from a tree perched 20 feet off the ground. Large creature lay motionless, almost casually in the tree. The only indication of the beast's presence was the penetrating yellow light of the unblinking eyes as they stared fixedly back into the light. Kind of reminds you of the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy fired that with a rifle and it disappeared. And he goes, "It was then that I saw it, a single obvious oval about 6 inches in diameter, embedded deeply in a patch of snow. It looked unusual, a single large print in the snow with 2 sharp claws protruding from the rear of the mark going a couple inches deeper. It almost looked like a bird of prey, maybe a raptor print, but huge." So this whole article goes through and it kind of does more, of all the reports that they've had, right? Where they talk about skinwalkers and the creatures and UFOs and all that stuff. And it makes you wonder if this place is one of those places that whatever you believe is going to happen, or whatever experience that you could experience based off of what you believe, is what's going to happen. Like if you're a Bigfoot dude and you're on this place and you're already freaked out, then the phenomenon or whatever it is that's causing these experiences or these reports or whatever is going to go, oh, Omi, your thing is Bigfoot, so I'm going to go ahead and show you Bigfoot. right?
Yeah.
Oh, your thing is aliens, so I'm going to go ahead and show you aliens. Oh, you're native and you're really freaked out about skinwalkers, as you should be. I'm going to show you skinwalkers.
Which kind of correlates with this because while this territory butts up against the Ute and the Ore reservation, it's named Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker is Navajo.
Right.
Well, the Navajo and the Ute and the Ore, they didn't get along.
Right.
So it would make sense that someone of one tribe or one pueblo might have a fear of a Navajo skinwalker or an evil Navajo creature. Right. So, yeah, that's an interesting take.
So it's kind of weird, It's kind of like, okay, so all these things are happening, And like the Shermans, right? He was a rancher. So what's the fear that ranchers have?
A giant wolf.
Wolf eating their stuff, right? Or a predator or, a nuisance animal or a critter, a varmint, if you will.
They were also Mormon, so they totally believed in UFOs.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, people talking about overall it's just not friendly. The Sherman's family ranch was 400 miles north of Navajo Nation. And it's not very friendly, right? The Navajo are more aggressive people. They're talking about the history, and you're kind of like talking about Navajo history in sort of a negative way. And then it talks about cursed water, cursed lights. And the skinwalkers didn't necessarily feature in the Ute region, but there's still aspects of the ranch that make sense within the context of the lore, which is what you were talking about.
Yes.
And they talk about some of the strangest occurrences that happened like next door at Bottle Hollow, which is a 420-acre man-made reservoir, right? Filled with fresh water in 1970 by a federal mandate, and in 1998, a police officer saw a large light plume into the reservoir plunge. I don't know why I can't say. Okay, so they saw this big, light plunge into the reservoir and then reemerge flying off into the night sky. So what is that? Something just dive bombing into this thing. And then in 2002, 4 young non-Indian men standing on the reservoir shoreline saw a blue-white ball enter the artificial lake.
So basically 2 ghost lights.
Or maybe underneath that lake is a hidden underground military base that Bob Bigelow knows about. What he actually seen was alien craft going in and going out, right? And since there's a bunch of crazy, undiscovered radiation that we're not aware of that powers these crafts, maybe the people all in that area being affected by it, right? Because I think if you watch the Skinwalkers, they kind of the Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch, they talk about people having like weird health effects of being in that area, right? Yep. So according to the Hunt for the Skinwalker, the glowing ball dove into the water just a few feet from the shore, then emerged seconds later in a new form, a shimmering, maneuverable, belt-shaped shaft of light. And after performing a brief, writhing aerial dance, the belt of light zipped away at a high rate of speed, hugging the ground before disappearing below the top of Skinwalker Ridge. So they talk about supernatural stuff that happened at Bottle Hollow. So I don't know, and then it ties into springs and certain waterways were reservoirs of negative power. There were evil spirits or evil sprites that would rise up out of the water and drag you in, which is basically every native lore has the same sort of thing, right? Cherokee have it. Watch out for the water to pull you in, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's from, the historian Sandra Jones, author of Being and Becoming Ute. So she, being native, she would know these local legends and folklore.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say, though. It's not necessarily... Well, that ties into the little people that we talked about at one time, but every native lore talks about water and being careful to get pulled in.
Yeah.
Right? And it even happened, because we talked about it here with basically the French Broad River. We went out to go do a little bit of a research for something for an upcoming thing that we're going to talk about, and guess what? Yeah, it goes back to the whole siren thing.
Yeah.
So,
but a lot of that for us, and again, we'll talk about it later, it's that whole misattributed mythology.
Yeah.
Here,
let's call it misappropriated.
Yeah, it's misappropriated and misattributed because it's not one particular tribe, it's another, kind of like the name Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Navajo, but it's all about the Ute.
Yeah.
And that's why I like this because, Sandra Jones, she wrote it, so she would know that these particular waters aren't the good waters. They're the negative waters. They're the
Well,
borderland.
and it kind of makes sense too, because if you know,
they're the
if,
borderland waters.
and if most of your lore and your history is vocal, you know, you say, hey, stay away from the bad water. I mean,
but what it? I mean, it's so iconic.
what if it's contaminated with uranium?
It's iconic because right there, it's a reservation border between a rancher and native land. It's border waters, negative energy.
Yeah.
And that just makes a lot of sense. And
the people who live in the area don't like each other.
Yeah. And like you were talking about uranium, I mean, we have right out there near Grant, well, almost to Grants, New Mexico, you have the Laguna Reservation and Acoma Reservation. There was uranium mining near those.
Yep.
And to this day, there's bad water near there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I don't know. UFO reports, mysterious creatures, all of that sort of thing. If you believe in that kind of thing, that's it. It's the epicenter. It's got everything going down right there.
What if it's a portal?
That's what I was thinking. So if it's a portal and something is a trickster element or is a smart phenomenon, it would be easy to tap into your brain and say, well, let me go ahead and show you what freaks you out the most or what you don't want to see. It goes back to Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And the Marshmallow Man, right?
Stay Puff.
Yeah. He's like, I'm sorry, it just popped into my mind. So, I don't know. But, yeah, the whole thing with this article that I read, I was like looking at it for history. And it's like, okay, it's not really that exciting. And the things I did find exciting were the ranch was bought for $200,000, right?
Yeah.
Adamantium real estate, which doesn't sound real to me.
Can't seem to. It's hard to do the footwork and trace the source on adamantium real estate something.
Because Bob Bigelow sold it.
Yeah, and undisclosed amount. So
$200,000.
No, for the resell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Probably like $2.5 million. I don't know. Kind of a crazy thing. But, I mean, generally, it was interesting, but it really wasn't that interesting.
I mean, well, because a lot of it, George Knapp took care of very well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And this whole thing sort of glosses over and says, you know, kind of tells you about the Skinwalker and Skinwalker Ranch. Kind of gives you sort of a quick overview. Then you get down to the very bottom of the article. It says, don't miss the return of Project Blue Book. So when I got to the very end of it, I'm like, oh, there you go. That's why this article was put out there, because evidently Project Blue Book's probably going to talk about this and haven't seen the series, haven't seen the show. So I guess if people like it, it's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. But the fence that surrounds the main buildings on Skinwalker Ranch have a biohazard symbol with an alien head in it. And I'm thinking, man, that is a cool Kyle tattoo if I've ever seen one right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of neat. All right, so the other day we were on Bigfoot Quest. Hello? What?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that?
No.
Because I'm trying to skip over some stuff because we've been going at this for like an hour and 13 minutes so
I
far.
didn't have to rehash certain things.
Hey, we were talking about how Skinwalker Ranch became a hotbed of paranormal activity. All right. And then we also talked about how UFO sightings were higher.
Okay, I'm going to
talk
get
about
this
coronavirus
out here because this article, Castle Rock Man says drones are targeting his home. We actually mentioned this in an earlier episode.
Yeah.
And now it's being rehashed on other websites. But basically, this man in Castle Rock claims these drones are now harassing him.
Yeah.
And it's just...
They're just kind of like trailing me.
Yeah. And it's not just him. It's been going on for 6 months, sometimes as many as 10 at a time. So
it just ain't normal stuff in the sky.
But this website does have a link, so if you've had some drone harassment in Colorado...
Well, here's why I put this in here.
Yeah.
Okay, because the drones have been going, we talked about drones past 3 episodes at least.
Yeah.
But here's where it's different with this guy. I'm not going to say his name, Brian Swanson. He claims that the drones have buzzed his home in Castle Rock for 6 months.
Yeah.
Sometimes as many as 10 at a time. All right, 10 at a time. So when they ask him, you know, hey, when was the first time you seen it? And he was like, I don't know what it is. He's got videos saying it's true. He can see the mysterious lights flying over his home. So if these drone flights have been going on for the past 6 months and now over the past 2 months they just got super popular all of a sudden,
Yeah.
then is this really anything to be worried about at all? And he also said he'd seen a drone over his house 2 years ago.
Yeah, but when we were living in Rio Rancho, we had 2 people with decent drones.
Yeah, but if these are the big ones that, they're talking about could be 4 feet across, this is obviously not
Okay.
regular store-bought drones or internet-bought drones. These are custom-made, huge things here. But I just thought it was kind of funny to put it in here. It's like, he talks about privacy intrusion and things like that, and he's not very happy about it. Where he's like, we've had thoughts about shooting them down, but that's not a good idea. He said they were flying there about 150 feet over his deck, making a buzzing sound.
Yeah.
So my point is that if they've been flying around for a while, and this has been going on for over 6 months, why now all of a sudden has it become a thing when it obviously has not been a thing? And I believe the recent update on the whole drone thing and the drone task force that Colorado was putting together is that all of that has been called off. Like, they're not doing it anymore. They're not putting any more effort into it. The drones are not an issue anymore as far as they're concerned. It's not, maybe it's a little bit of a nuisance, but it doesn't need all those resources to be applied to it. So in our last episode, we talked about the possibility of a drone or a helicopter entering each other's space and causing an issue. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, a week later, they've stopped, right, with the whole drone task force. Mm-hmm. This guy is talking about how he's had drones whizzing over his house for the past 6 months. So is it much ado about nothing?
Maybe.
Yeah, or did somebody in the government say, okay, we're not going to tell you what we're doing because it's really none of your business, but stop messing around and flying around when we're flying drones. We do drone countermeasures, so if it's part of training and stuff like that, it's part of operational readiness. So maybe they've got a little heads up saying, okay, look, we can neither confirm nor deny the drones, but stop doing what you're doing. You're about to cause problems. Yeah. So if the helicopter, the life flight or whatever it was, helicopter was in the wrong place at the wrong time, it would be something. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. It's like, that's weird. It's been going on for months, up to 6 months. So this really isn't an issue at all. Or is it? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think we were on Bigfoot Quest.
Yep. So we were on Bigfoot Quest and we talked about Bigfoot stuff.
Yeah. And Bigfoot Quest was started by Edward. He started a show to explore the experiences and viable evidence.
Yeah, and we actually met him
at encounters.
Where did we meet him at?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania Conference on the Unexplained. We chatted with Ed and Joy.
Yes.
For a while. They're good people. And so the threat was made, hey, you guys got to come on our show.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, and it just kind of happened to go that way. So, we had a little talk, and we were talking about Bigfoot stuff, and he talked about his experiences with some of the Sasquatch Bigfoot encounters and why he's doing what he's doing. And we also talked about our unusual experiences coming from New Mexico that we had in New Mexico.
Yeah, specifically, the stuff in Jimenez, the San Juan River district that we used to go and, do a lot of day trips and hiking in.
And some camping, yeah.
And some camping. And then the outskirts of Greens, New Mexico.
Which we did a lot of camping.
Yeah, things like El Mape and Lobo Canyon, stuff like that. And we jumped off from there and we kind of skipped a bunch of things, but we did talk about how that pretty much turned Cheap Geek into CreepGeeks and how that's now what we do now. So,
well, we still, we still do Cheap Geek stuff, but it's sort of like
grown.
Yeah, we kind of figured it out one day. We're like, huh.
Yeah.
But, and it was, because we talked about, seeing what we seen and baby cry, or in other words, Bigfoot mimicry, right? And infrasound and things that we experienced. And then come to find out, and you brought this up, you were like, hey, this show, this is where you talk.
The show is called Cheap Geek. And
no, it's called Ancient Monster Quest.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
I'm not. I wasn't rehashing all this. These where you just need to. Okay, see now.
No, you've been rehashing.
Well, yeah, because not everybody knows what's going on. You got to. So anyway, Ancient Monster Quest, right?
Yeah. So
Bigfoot.
Basically, the day after we do Bigfoot Quest, Ancient Monster Quest : Bigfoot premieres on the History Channel, and it's starting, it's playing while I'm like picking up my craft stuff, and I look over and I realize they're talking about New Mexico, and there's a very familiar location on the screen. And it's a location that, we used to walk the dogs all the time.
Yeah.
And it turns out for this particular episode, they focused a lot on northwestern New Mexico and Jimenez.
Yeah.
And
the surrounding area.
Yeah, the surrounding area. I mean, they showed parts near like Farmington and Cuba and Jimenez, of course. And but they did so much focus on it that we were like, we've been there.
Yeah.
In fact, at one point, I think they were in Jimenez Recreation Area where we were camping.
Yeah. They basically talked
Yeah.
about, they outlined experiences that happened in that area, which is exactly the same experiences that happened to us.
And they did do some interesting stuff and showed some petroglyph evidence from both New Mexico and Arizona. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know that stuff existed.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And they also brought up, information about the area that we were in, finding tracks. People reported with like the mimicry and things like that.
And then
there's even supposed to be like a Bigfoot island out there.
Yeah, and the violent encounters.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I appreciated, because one of the researchers they had on, they were like, it wasn't until recently that Bigfoot was depicted as anything other than an aggressive, violent creature. And they even showed this petroglyph of this menacing creature.
Yeah.
That was just like, "Arr," and had this open mouth, or it had a whistling mouth.
Yeah.
And whistling and baby cries again, like you were saying.
Which is funny because the day before we've been talking to, we were on Bigfoot Quest, and then we have a link in the show notes so you can go there and check it out. And we talked all about New Mexico. We talked about Bigfoots being aggressive. We talked about mimicry, right? We talked about sightings and things like that. We talked about what we thought Bigfoot was and what it could be. We talked about our experiences in New Mexico that we had 3 or 4 times in different places, right? And just the coincidence of this shows up. We're like, huh. And the dude standing there and the researcher standing there. And we talked about him, actually.
Yeah, we did.
About him. And we probably didn't portray him in a favorable light because he was like partying it up. But anyway, we talked about that whole expedition that University of New Mexico paid for.
And I think, honestly, UNM got butthurt because they don't realize a lot of research is basically sit and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you spend one extra day in a hotel room, suddenly it's a scandalous newspaper article.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I think that basically they just didn't get the results that they thought they were going to get.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well. So, yeah, it was funny. We talked all about that. And they even mentioned the areas that we were in and all. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a funny thing because we seen that and we were on the show. And then, tonight, well, this is probably a couple days later if you're listening to the podcast. They had I guess it was the season end of Expedition. Season finale of Season finale of Expedition Bigfoot. And one of the things that was experienced by, a team researcher biologist.
Oh, this was part of the stuff. So this was from last week's episode, and they just played all of them in a row.
Yeah, see, that was the thing too. Evidently we're new to TV again because it was new. I'm like, I didn't think this show was 2 hours long, but they just rolled it all in together. But
yeah,
the team researcher biologists,
person thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maria Meyer?
Yeah.
Mayor? Yeah.
Mayor? I don't know.
Yeah.
But she had a weird experience where, they went out in the night and they were looking for stuff, didn't really pan out. They seen weird lights, but they went up trying to go to sleep. And she had weird dreams with the sounds of, giggling children.
Yeah.
And so she didn't sleep well. And so the next day she was talking to another one of the team members about hearing the giggling and stuff like that. And he was all about, that's Bigfoot trying to communicate with you. Because he talked about native folklore.
Yeah.
And talked about how Bigfoot kind of messes with your head.
Trickster, trying to keep you awake
mimicry.
At night. And then on the skeptic level, because I do kind of side with her on this, right before she went to bed, she did one of her video journals where she talks about how much she appreciates the opportunity to do this, but doing these types of things, she misses her kids.
Yeah. And see, when I seen that, I was like, whatever, man. You were in the woods for a week. It's not a big deal. But evidently they're out there for 20 days or something like that. They filmed it for 21 days.
And I kind of side with her on that. She has kids. She misses them. She talks about them, so naturally she's going to dream about them.
Yeah.
But is she going to dream about them so significantly that it's going to wake her up, or in her sleep she's going to think she hears
giggling children?
Yeah, and children's noises.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was the next day they found like a children's cemetery.
It was, so that was a part that I wish they explored more, because in the middle of nowhere they found like a produce truck from like the 20s or 30s, and then they found an abandoned cabin, and then the other dude also found an abandoned cabin, but the one they were at, like right next to it, was this cemetery full of children's graves.
Yeah. I was kind of like, I was kind of interested in that.
And the dude says, well, I'll look and see if there was any, settlement claims here. And they never talk about it. I'm like, wait, please, I want to know.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't you like bust out with like an EVP and, but it's not their bag, man.
Like 7 children's graves right here. Did Bigfoot attack them? I mean, certain parts of this show I'm kind of mad at, and other parts I'm like, okay, you've hooked me. I'm going to go ahead and watch the next episode. So, yeah.
I don't know. It was kind of weird, but the funny thing, or the thing that got my attention was that she talked about, hearing the giggling children.
And she's the skeptic.
And she's supposed to be the skeptic. But the other guy who's all about Bigfoot, native lore, and everything was like, Bigfoot's trying to communicate with you. They do that. They can make mimicry. They can make laughing sounds. They mimic children sometimes. And that's exactly the same experience that we had when we were in well, I don't want to say the area, but we were in Gilman Tunnels in New Mexico. We heard that.
Yeah.
And heard it like in my head, like infrasound, like in my freaking head. Yeah. But anyway, we talked about that the night before too. And when we were actually on, Ed's show, when we did our live stream with him.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of funny that all the stuff that we brought up, and see, here's the thing too. We now have access to satellite television, but it doesn't mean we know how to program satellite television, because I still can't figure out how to make the channels go back to the last one I was on. So I had no idea that any of these shows were going to talk about the stuff that we experienced, and here we are seeing them like, oh, wow, okay. So it just kind of gives maybe a little bit of validation to what we experienced, I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of synchronous. Yeah. Synchronous. Yeah, so it was cool being on Bigfoot Quest. Had a good time. Really enjoy talking to Ed and Joy. Maybe we'll be on there sometime in the future, or we'll bring them on our show. It's kind of one of those things where it sort of worked out together. It was kind of weird. It was good. It was fun. Yeah. So you should definitely check out Bigfoot Quest. They have a Facebook page, and we have a link to that. And the Facebook page is Bigfoot Quest if you want to find it. There's also a YouTube channel that you can go to and watch the movies that he's been making. And that's kind of how we met when we were at the Pennsylvania Conference on the Unexplained. We were talking about cameras and filming stuff and, all of that. And then that's it. We've been talking for a while, and he's been, doing his thing. And so it was fun to be on the show. Look forward to it. It was a good time. But it's just kind of weird. Bigfoot Island, had no idea that existed. We've sat there and looked at that thing. We've camped by there. We've been
there in the San Juan. And I'm
it's like,
what?
Like,
I've never heard of it as. Now, we've been told by people, like the school and the area past the school, that, a lot of people aren't allowed past, Yeah. But we never heard it called Bigfoot.
Yeah, if you're not native, you're not allowed.
Yeah.
And there's also places where you're not going to be told exact locations and stuff like that. And, hey, it's fine.
I wonder.
We know that we have been places that we can't give you the exact location on, because if you don't have a GPS, I can't explain how to get there.
Or you're not.
And we've
allowed.
Also been places where we've been told don't tell people.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody know.
I've been places where you're not allowed unless you have an escort.
Yeah, because you're on reservation land. It's not your land.
Yeah.
It's not public land.
Or the land grant area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, hey, it's still not your land. We've camped on places where we thought we were on public land, and the guy was like, hey, you guys going to be here for a couple days? And we're like, nah, well, we're leaving. You need the spot. And the guy's like, nah, man, you're on my land. I'm like, what? It's okay.
Yeah.
He was cool about it. Just camped on this rancher's land for just chilling, got a fire going and stuff, right? They're cooking.
Why are these cows so close?
Yeah, it's like, huh. He was real cool.
Remember the cow that ran out behind us because it was spooked?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cows are kind of dumb, so What freaked me out was going through some of these places and going through a nice long dirt road to get to our campsite, not seeing anybody at all, and then just seeing this full-blown big black bear running for its life across the road, ran down off the hill, like across the road in 2 seconds, ran through another campsite where there were people.
Yeah.
This thing was on the move, man, and
he was terrifiid.
You could see the whites of this bear's eyeballs.
And you could hear him breathing.
Mouth wide open. He was flying through there. I was like, what the? And it was scared. It was obviously scared. It wasn't like, I'm a bear. It was like hauling ass.
Yeah. It was
and
so
I looked
bad.
up on the hill. I'm like, oh, man, I wonder what's coming down after him. But
yeah. It was so scary that it scared both the dogs.
Yeah.
So.
It scared me, too.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because right after that, when we went to another place, we almost ran into like 15 elk. Just standing in the road like they own the place. And just in case you have any idea how big a Honda CRV is, we used to have one called Debbie Dirtbox. This thing was like, I swear, twice the size of that CRV.
Yeah.
Huge, like almost moose class elk.
Moose class.
Yeah. I didn't know they got that big, man. It was the
Yeah.
thing. It was like, holy crap, these things are everywhere. And then, fast forward last year, we're in the on the Blue Ridge Parkway, taking pictures of giant elk there too. But that elk was big, but he wasn't as big as the ones in New Mexico.
Yeah. I mean, even the female that stuck her head in the window of our camper van, she was bigger than the one we saw here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's like, hello, it's 1 a.m. What are you guys doing on the road?
Yeah, that scared me pretty good. We're at a stop sign trying to figure out where a particular place that we were going to go stay at.
Yeah.
And this thing just stuck its head in the window. Like, excuse me, sir. Can you give me directions? I'm trying to find Billy the Kid Campground. Yeah. Fun fact, we didn't stay at Billy the Kid Campground because we couldn't find it. We kind of stayed behind the Fort Stanton. It wasn't the church. It was the cafeteria, the mess hall.
Yeah.
And heard noise all night. And we went and talked to the lady at the campsite, or the lady at the museum, at the Fort Stanton Museum. It's, man, it got pretty loud here. How many people were on the base? She's like, me. Like, huh. Because it's basically just like a museum. It's not manned or anything, and there wasn't nobody there. And even the post office thing, the guy didn't even show up for that. And he's like once a week or something like that. So that was pretty weird. It sounded like people eating, man.
Yeah.
And Bill, it was just funny.
It sounded like a mess hall.
Yeah. Well, we were parked behind it. We thought that they maybe, it was weird. For that whole base to be kind of deserted like that, it was pretty loud, man. It was, buildings were loud. It was just strange. So we didn't really know at the time, but it's probably haunted as hell.
That was the tagline for us in New Mexico.
Yeah.
We had no idea.
Didn't know it was kind of creepy and weird and haunted. Now we do.
Yeah.
So it's a thing. So speaking of a thing, it's time for us to go.
Yep.
Podcast is done. So anyway.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
Questions, comments, feedback, contact at creepgeeks.com. Or we'd appreciate a rating on whatever podcast platform you listen on. And check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
So
anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
This has been the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 164, Coronavirus, New UFO Hotness Starlink, Man Harassed by Mysterious Drones, Skinwalker Ranch, and Bigfoot. So yeah, be sure to tune in to the next podcast where we talk about more paranormal and weird news. As long as we don't know what it's going to be just yet. Anyway, appreciate everybody listening, and be careful. Hand sanitizer is your friend. Slather everything in it. Yeah. Don't get coronavirus.
No. Stay safe, everybody.
Yep. All right. See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.
Yes. You're like, yes, bye. Bicycle.